Welcome back to another episode of TableTalk Friday, a D&D podcast. I'm your host, Oswin Alemaker, and I just wanted to tell you about three boys who love to talk about D&D. If you like their style, you should follow them on any podcast service you prefer, and come back every Friday for a new episode. And without any further ado, back to the boys.
Welcome to TableTalk Friday, a D&D podcast where two best friends are sitting in two separate bedrooms. We used to be all in one bedroom, and now we're in two separate ones. My name is Matthew Seth Reed, used to be Seth Pittman. A lot's changed in a year and a half, and I'm here today with Patrick Fonjami. Patrick, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
Hi, everyone. Patrick. I'm best friend of Seth. I've known him for, I want to say...
17 years?
Yeah, a majority of my life.
I think I was 10 when we met. Now I'm 27.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
It's been a really long time. Yeah, Patrick's been a consistent player in our campaign since we went to the same college. Both got into D&D around the same time. And yeah, he's been playing in my campaigns for years and years and years. And now here we are. Finally, he's been the DM for us for the past, 4 or 5 months?
Yeah, I believe what's going on. It's going on about that time, yeah.
Jesus Christ, dude. I mean, it's been crazy because I got to experience like you starting out as a player, very beginning, and now coming into like you're DMing a great campaign for us. I've been loving every bit of it so far.
I'm glad.
But yeah, right here at the beginning, I just want to do some catching up. This is our first episode back in quite a long time, and it's just you and me. We don't have Zach today. We don't have Drew today. It's just you and me. You know, everybody's busy.
Oh, no. Glad to be here for sure.
Okay,
yeah.
So how's it going? What have you been up to lately? Do you have any life updates for me,
Let's see, life updates. So I guess I'm a music teacher. I teach at a place called School of Rock. The way I describe it is if you've seen the movie School of Rock with Jack Black, it is a carbon copy of what I do every day. I basically just teach kids rock and roll music all day. It's pretty awesome. That's been essentially been my life for the past 40 years now. And if I'm not teaching, I'm playing D&D and I'm playing Magic the Gathering.
Heck yeah.
And that's
speaking of Magic, it's very topical right now. I literally just went through on Archidect and uploaded all my stuff before we got on here because I usually try to keep my decks up to date, but I got a little behind. I was like 2 entire decks behind. But I loved the Final Fantasy drop. I've been having a great time with it. I made a whole Cloud deck. I made a whole Noctis deck. I crushed with the Noctis deck at a store near me like last week. But nice. What have you been doing with that lately? Because I know your experience with it is a lot more than mine. You've been playing for years and years more than me. So I want to know what you actually do when you play Magic now.
So yeah, I'll just be the first to admit it. I'm a hater in the Magic community, but I like to say I'm a good hater. I'm not like I'm not a meanie.
You're talking about Universes Beyond?
I'm talking about the Universes Beyond. That includes the Final Fantasy sets, the Doctor Who sets, anything that is like an already existing IP. If it is turning into a Magic card, me personally, I'm not for it. That being said, what I do recognize is that it will continue the game to not die. And that is one thing that it was starting to turn into. The game was slowly going away in popularity, and now with this big resurgence of, oh my gosh, we have Cloud, oh my gosh, we have Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic the Hedgehog's a little out there for me. I'll be honest.
No, I know. But I guess I'm happy. I've got my 2 decks. In fact, I got a promo yesterday of a new legendary that I've never gotten before, and I started doing some brewing this morning, and I might make a 3rd deck.
Because you said you're down to 2 now, right?
Yeah. It is. So my issue is the decks that I make. I like specific play styles, and I've tried almost every play style that there ever really can be, and I don't have fun with it like I do have it with my other 2 decks. So I've got my 2 decks. So I'm cool with just playing those. And if everyone wants to play their, Final Fantasy, Sonic the Hedgehog, Rick Grimes, have contact, great, awesome. But yeah, but again, I hold that opinion to myself just because, again, I do not care what you play as long as we're playing Magic the Gathering. I came into the game loving the medieval fantasy aspect of it,
Right.
which is really what drew me to D&D, was like this idea of these like really cool artworks and this like, I don't know, a game that like I kind of understood.
Right, and like say for the Forgotten Realms set and the Baldur's Gate set, it makes total sense, right? Because it's fully fantasy, it's Wizards of the Coast, all of that makes sense. It feels in universe. I agree with a lot of the Universes Beyond stuff. Like, I'm not going to play Spider-Man. I'm going to be honest. I love Spider-Man. I love Marvel. This set is already like as expensive as the Final Fantasy one when it comes out, and as well as a lot of the mechanics in it are really cool, make a lot of sense. But I'm like, I really don't want to have Venom popping out against my wizard.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's not out of place in the Marvel universe, right? Doctor Strange versus these villains, but I'm not a big fan of all of that. But at the same time, a lot of the in-universe sets that have been coming out too, I haven't been a fan of. I like some of the cards in Aether Drift. Loot the Pathfinder, big fan of him as a commander. But at the same time, not really into the theming of Aether Drift altogether. Had a good time with Tarkir, and then the space one, Edge of Eternities, that's coming out, I'm like a little bit iffy on. I mean, I think sci-fi, very cool altogether, and the cards mechanics, very cool. I'm just a little magicked out. I just came back from MagicCon with my wife and one of my friends, and one of my other friends, and that was so much fun. So yeah, I'm kind of magicked out. Like I'm excited to play. I have 9 decks. I have 9 commander decks, and normally I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take these 4 with me, and I end up playing 2 of them.
See, that's my thing. That's my thing. So whereas like other people have like all these decks, and they'll like play it once every 2 months, and I don't know, and then it will inevitably get taken apart. And it'll be like used for like to either upgrade another deck or to go towards another new commander that kind of is like this other commander that you had, but it's new, so let's just move everything. So it's just this like constant state of just trying new things.
Yeah, and I know this is like a full-on D&D podcast, but Magic is Wizards of the Coast, and that's been pretty topical lately because I know Wizards is doing all of this specifically because they want to like Fortniteify Magic, and they're kind of trying to, as far as I'm hearing, do the same thing with D&D. They want to partner with people to make like setting books and stuff, so that way they can make more money off of the property, because the one D&D or like D&D 2024 books, they didn't do that well. They didn't sell that well. Why? Because it's kind of like 5e. 5e has a lot of stuff for it. Most people who got into it with 5e and are used to 5e, and that's what I'm used to. I love playing 5e, and I don't anticipate ever buying the new player's hand. Look at all these books. I got all these books back here. I our system works good.
No, I agree. So I do have a library as well. I do have the player's handbook, the new player's handbook, and I think I have the new DMG. I haven't read through the DMG yet, but the player's handbook is just like my take on it. Oh, sorry, you're gonna see my cat. My cat is Vader. Yeah. Sorry.
Hey, you're fine.
But one thing that I kept really just seeing was this new D&D 2024 is just they took 5e and they were like, okay, we have some like small minor things that we should have or want to put into D&D. But the problem is it's hard to kind of do that with already established 5e stuff.
Right.
So, I don't know. I just feel like it's a little bit, it's like 5e plus, but
it is. It really is. And I guess if you're really wanting to keep on the cutting edge of D&D stuff, it makes perfect sense to go in and get that. Like, keep updating your system. I do think a lot of the systems in 2024 are an improvement on the 5e systems. But
Agree.
with our group, who's been playing for what, 6-7 years together, longer than that maybe, we've been playing for this long together. I'm personally not interested in reading a whole nother book and being like, okay, everybody, we're doing what we were doing exactly, but changing these 5 things. And I need everybody to spend $100 to do it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
So I also DM with my coworkers at the school, and one of the first things I told them, because this was right when 2024 was like coming out. I was like, okay, whatever you see, just do not read into anything that just has the 2024 or 1D&D. I was like, just look at 5e. It's going to be confusing. I haven't even gone through it all, but you're going to see that it's the new standard of D&D. I'm like, the great thing about D&D and the great thing about this great game is that you can make it up as you go and you can set the rules yourself. So it's like, okay, we're using our already established years worth of source material. We're good with just this.
Or like, for instance, some of the stuff, like for instance in the Spelljammer setting, when you said make up the rules as you go, when Zach was like, hey, are we going to do the whole like gravity plane shifting thing when we get in like range of another celestial body? And I was like, no. I was like, no, we're not. You're not going to fly next to a ship and then everybody's falling into space. I'm not going to sit here and think about how that science works. We're going to say you have a gravity field and they have a gravity field, and in the middle it swaps, and that way you can manipulate it how you feel, like Mario Galaxy. That's how this is going to work.
Exactly.
So, yeah, not a huge fan of how Wizards has been doing everything. It feels very much like they're trying to cash grab everything. And I understand that in the trading card space, like we just talked about, because you can do it. Everyone's going to buy the cards. I've been lucky enough to pull cards that are expensive enough that I can trade for the ones I want. Like I was able to trade a really nice unicard for a lightning army of 1 card for and pay an extra $1. And I was like, this is good. It's like equivalent exchange here. So luckily in that space, I can, if I just want a card or 2, I can do that. In the D&D space, I'm being expected to spend the price that I could pay for a full price game for these books that I read 1/4 of, and then the rest I make up as I go. That's why I actually wanted to bring up with you how you feel about like all the Critical Role Daggerheart stuff. I haven't gotten to talk to anybody about it. Not necessarily for us, like, you know, switching in our play group, just how you feel about it as like a whole.
So I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want to sound like old fashioned. I'm very like it needs to be Wizards of the Coast sanctioned sources.
Yeah.
So I personally have not looked into any of the Critical Role stuff. When it comes to like stuff like that, and in terms of like consuming D&D content, I learned early on that I try like watching Critical Role, because everyone's like, oh my gosh, you play D&D, watch Critical Role. I'm like, that's great, right? And then it just, I would always be watching, and then I would always say to myself, I want to be in this campaign. Like I need to be a part of it. And it just, and I'm like, and it made it difficult to watch, because I'm like, oh my gosh, all these decisions, and I'm like RPing myself, yelling at my TV, and it's just, so I haven't personally given that any look. I might to it's always good to just see and try out new things.
And one of the things I wanted to mention on it is Daggerheart as a system is based around mostly like theater. Like if you're thinking about Daggerheart, it's 2d12s for the players, right? You roll it. You have 1 die that's a bad die. You have 1 die that's a good die. I'm gonna like dumb it down a lot because I haven't like read all the mechanics. 1 die is good die, 1 die is bad die. You roll it. If you roll higher on the bad die, you add them together, see if you succeed the check in a bad way or a good way, and then you roll higher on the good die. Good things happen. And see if you succeed the check with the numbers adding together. It's a little more complicated in the way I just explained it, but it's a little more simple as far as dice rolling and mechanics goes. But there's a lot of character building mechanics that are really cool, and world building mechanics that kind of make it like a collaborative effort and less like all the stuff on the DM. to throw everything together and then jump into this huge campaign. There's a little more, I want to say there's a little more share the love as far as the story goes.
Okay.
And like spotlight mechanics as far as like, hey, this person is the spotlight right now. Let them have their moment. Move on to the next person. This person's on the spotlight right now. So it seems cool. I would like to try it with like a little short, like a 1-off or like maybe a little 3-off or something like that. Try it out, see if we like it. But I still anticipate doing 5e for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Just because it's comfortable. It's comfortable. It's easy. We all know what to call at all times. I mean, when we have a consistent play group like this, I feel like that's the way you kind of have to bake it in, is like, this is what we're used to. It's kind of like if you play Commander, right? With a group of 4 every week. Hey, these are our house rules. And when we all sit down, we all know 5e really quick. I can make a character in a few minutes that's going to fit our campaign. I could sit there and quickly be like, okay, I'll play this class, this subclass. This will be his name. He's got a backstory kind of based around this area. And then if I need to, I can make up the rest on the spot.
Exactly. Yeah.
The hardest part will be like, okay, I need to make sure my voice is different than my other voice that I did. So yeah, I just wanted to get like a little temp check on you for that, see if you knew anything about it, because Dagger Art seems like a really cool system, especially if you're just trying to mostly do storytelling, but like lighter on combat and stuff. But if you like tactical combat, which I think everybody at our table does, like going into combat, thinking about spacing and exactly where you're gonna aim the spell and making sure you're positioned in exactly the right place. I think all of us really like that Fire Emblem style combat that we're doing, because I know I do. I really enjoy like also having our storytelling, our RP, and our like video game section where it's like this 4 hours we are just killing.
Yeah, exactly. I will say over the years, I don't know, retaining 5, like just the knowledge of D&D has gotten a lot quicker. Like I will say there was like a period of time, like maybe 3 years ago, where I would spend an entire day making a character, or like
Drew still does that.
Yeah, exactly. and there's some, and then again, there's still days where I'm like, oh Christ, I do not have a character, and I'm like, oh, what do I do? And then I'm just like, okay. And then I go to think, and then something comes up, and I'm like, okay, I guess we're going with it. And then I trust myself, and then I always trust that my group will feed off of it. In fact, that's why I think the campaign is going so good, is because unironically, you guys are doing everything that I have hoped you guys were doing.
Right.
And it's just been paying off very well.
And so once again, my character lost their arm. So
that did happen. That did happen, unfortunately.
I mean, we can go into talking about you DMing a little bit, because, well, first I want to go back to like when you were playing, right? Because, I was with you for your first session of D&D as the DM, and then all the way up until now where like you're DMing me, which before this, I did not have that much fun playing. Like playing, I had fun DMing. Like DMing was like all I really liked to do, because I enjoyed telling the story, reacting to you guys, kind of being in charge of entertainment for the night, right? Because that's really what it is. Like, you as the DM throw the party. And so I was like, before, I really enjoyed just being the person who threw the party every time. Like, hey, we're playing it this time. I'm running it. I'm hosting. Prepared these couple of things. And, for Descent into Avernus, Storm King's Thunder, and now me doing Spelljammer in our off time, like, that's what I like to do. But now, like, this is the first time in a while that, like, I've enjoyed playing my character. I'm like, man, I'm ready for the next session. Because I enjoyed when Zach ran Curse of Strahd, of course. Like, I enjoyed playing in those games, but I always preferred DMing. But I actually enjoy now sitting down for the game and being like, I'm hands off. I just get to have the story told to me. And I show up and react as Genesis, my cleric. So props to you, because I'm very much enjoying the game so far.
Thank you.
So my question is,
yes,
what was your first experience as a player, and how did that lead to you wanting to DM?
Awesome. Yeah. So I guess my first experience as a player, I remember it. I remember it vividly, because I remember you just looking at me and you were like, absolutely not. Why would you? No.
I don't remember what happened.
No, so this was Storm King's Thunder. It might have been like the second session, and we had just got into Nightstone.
Okay.
and we discovered Eknon's either it was father or mother who was like smashed, but we found the other mother or father equivalent.
Yeah, so his mom
And
was alive, his dad had died in the attack.
there we go. And so I texted one of the other party members. I forgot who it was at the time, but I was like, "Yo, wouldn't it be really funny if my character Daleth just killed Eknon's mom?"
Yeah,
And
okay, I remember this.
and so I was like, "That sounds like a great idea." I was like, "This is D&D. This I can do whatever I want. Let's just kill somebody." I was like, "Seth, I have a question," and you're like, "Yeah, what's up?" I'm like, all right, so I can't say it out loud because obviously Drew, Eknon's character, is like sitting right next to me. So I'm like, I show him the text, and and again he looks at me and he's like, "No, absolutely not."
Because I think when you were new, it was more like we're just sitting down to have fun, right? Let's be funny, let's do something chaotic,
Exactly.
and at the time, I had already DM'd a 13 session 11 to 13 session, somewhere in there, campaign for a different group. So I knew the basic do's and do nots of a story. And so I was like, I rarely say no, right? Like you ask me anything, you're like, hey, I'm making a character, I want to make this creative item, can I do it? Very rarely am I going to say no. That was definitely one of the times where I was like, no, you'll make Eknon hate you, and then you'll have to get kicked out and make a new character, and then we're not going to enjoy playing because we're going to think you're going to do it again.
Yeah. No, I think so. I want to say for like the first half of Storm King's Thunder, it was really a lot of me truly just trying to figure out how to play the game. And it would always just be like, I remember the thing we would always joke about, be like, "Hey, Patrick, check your character sheet for a second." "Oh, wait, you've had this ability this entire time and you haven't been using it." Like, Daleth was a war mage, and he was the Arcane Reflection.
Yeah, it was like you get +2 AC as a reaction when something's coming at you.
Yeah, never used that.
I remember that too.
I also remember I never once applied the proficiency bonus to the abilities.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, my Arcana was like, I want to say a +2 at level like 15. I think at one point we were at that level, or like 13.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until like the end of Storm Kings going into Avernus where I kind of had that shift where I was like, okay, I think I'm kind of understanding it now. I kind of need to take it a little bit serious. And then we got into Avernus. Now, Avernus, I like to say that I had a plan for Avernus, and the plan just absolutely failed. And just right off the rip.
Describe your plan.
Yeah, of course. So my character in this campaign his name was Varys.
Like Game of Thrones.
And like Game of Thrones, specifically, because at that point I had just finished the series for the first time.
Yeah.
And I thought he was like the coolest character, so I was like, all right, that's it.
I had also just finished Game of Thrones, and you said, my character's name is Varys, and I was like, oh, so Game of Thrones. But you were a lizard folk.
I was a lizard folk, and I was a Way of Mercy monk.
Very merciful monk.
Yeah, oh, don't worry.
Heals all the time, helping everyone out.
Yeah, so I want to say we did that campaign for, I want to say, like 2.5 years, right?
Yeah, it was almost 3 years, I think. Well, it was 89 sessions over the course of like 3 years.
89 sessions. And so over 89 sessions. So with the Way of Mercy monk, their big thing is that they can use their key points to heal.
And cure disease.
In those 89 sessions, I might have done it, I want to say 5 times on myself only. And there could be situations where like there would be party members who are at like 2 health. They were diseased.
Plenty of health.
They were, or just like they were like, hey, let's quickly heal. Hey, Varys, since monks get their key back after a short rest, why don't you dump your key into healing? Varys would go, nah, nah, let's not do that. And so it got to about like the halfway point in Avernus where I think the switch finally clicked on, and I was like, oh, I've been playing this game incorrectly this entire time. And so then it was, okay, well, now I kind of need to play Varys a little bit better. So then I tried multi-classing with Varys, and that also didn't work out that well. But in the end, it was a good character. I think his ending was amazing. Sailed off with Captain Benny out to sea to find treasure and whatnot.
Yeah, I think Varys' whole thing at the beginning was like, hey, I gotta get revenge on these people. And then he like works on doing that and then is like, oh, well, I mean, I know there are higher ups in the city, but I'm gonna try to take over their villa and become a higher up in the city. And then it was very clear, like, they were too high up to take over. And then you recruited some pirates, you sent them out to find stuff for you. We did a whole one-off around that, come back, and then finish out Descent into Avernus. I loved Varys. I thought he was a great character, but yes, you're correct. It was very... I could tell you had a plan at first where you're like, you named him Varys, you wanted to have all the secrets and stuff, right? And then none of that stuff came up.
No. And to be fair, I think it was me not writing a good backstory, and it was still... I was still thinking I had the wrong mindset with D&D, and I was thinking like, oh, this is just going to be like an anime. I'm just going to be like anime, and we're going to be good. I'm going to roll some dice, maybe do a weird voice, and I'll be good.
Well, and to be fair, I do tend to describe a lot of things very anime-like when we play our games. So we do go there pretty often.
Oh, of course, but it was just this idea of you see animes and you see all these like crazy fight scenes. You see these like epic speeches, and just like this, just really just like a crazy experience. And you're like, I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, over time you start realizing it's like, okay, let's start benefiting the story. Let's make like a good character that can like benefit things like the party, or maybe like leaning more into like a backstory. So thankfully you bought back Spelljammer, because the backstory that I have for that campaign is very cool.
Yeah.
I believe he is a warlock, and I believe he's like is an animal. I'm using the Tome of Heroes source book.
So I use a lot of third-party stuff, just for anybody listening. I use a lot of third-party stuff. I approve Kobold Press classes, which includes the Tome of Heroes and stuff like that. If you show it to me and you're like, I really want to play this, and I read over it and I go, it doesn't seem broken, then I'll usually allow it at the table, especially when it comes to magic items and stuff. Classes can be a little iffy, but Tome of Heroes has a lot of these smoke powder classes and stuff like that. So I was like, I really want to include guns in space, so I'm going to do that. And so I allowed those subclasses to be used. And I think it's really fun so far. So yeah, as far as the your new character, you were talking about the backstory and everything.
Yeah, I wanted, if I'm I put myself on the spot here. I'm trying to remember a backstory. So I do know that he is an animal patron warlock.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I wanted to really encapsulate was I wanted to have like a Minsk and Boo type character, but not obviously Minsk and Boo. So what I created was I created this like gentleman like dude. They're like a very like spiffy scholarman. And eventually, I will get a little space hamster companion that will also be like a spiffy lad as well. I believe we're researchers, and I believe we are just documenting events in space, I want to say. And it's like, I believe my motivation was we were like I was just going to like document the voyage, I want to say.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you guys you're on enough of a voyage right now. Like, you're in uncharted territory for the Rock of Brawl, so it's good to have your characters there for them. So yeah, no. As a player, I've had a very pleasant experience having you around. I always thought it was funny how much chaos you and Sean both brought to the table, because having both of you there all the time would make a lot of chaos happen. While I find that Drew and Zach tend to build like heavier relationships, make everybody at the table feel something. You and Sean always would bring about, you would always go somewhere that I never pictured the session going, and it would always make it better than like what I had pictured in my head. So that was always fun. I wanted to bring up the one joke we always used to make every time something would come up and you wouldn't know what it was, and we'd be like, don't worry, guys, he's new. He's new.
Yeah.
Like, he's never played before. He's new. This is his first session.
Yeah, we'd be like, we were like 3 years into, we were like year 2 into Avernus. We had played Storm King's Thunder, and it's like, Patrick, you can't cast a cantrip after you've casted Hate. Guys, sorry, new player.
I haven't done it before.
The big one in Storm King's Thunder was casting Dimension Door and then wanting to Firebolt after.
Yeah.
I think I would like consistently.
It works in Baldur's Gate, to be fair.
It does. It does. Another thing that I always would do was I would Dimension Door maybe 30 feet.
Yeah.
Straight across.
Yeah, that would happen.
That would happen a lot. I don't know. I just think as sort of like as the years go by, I learned a lot from you guys, and I wanted to like really take this game seriously, so I just dove in.
Yeah.
And I just consumed everything, and I was like, I'm going to know how to play this game because I was like, I am not going to be the hindrance in the party, and so I don't know. I now I'm like, spent hundreds of bucks on books and dice and everything, but I love this game, and I a group. It's awesome. Anytime anyone mentions D&D at the school, I'm always like, do it. And they're always like, Patrick, how are you able to play D&D? I'm like, well, listen. And I tell everyone, the hardest thing to play about playing D&D is finding a group and then a time that works for everybody. Because I'm like, listen, I've got a friend who's in the Army and I got a friend who's in EMT. I was like, and somehow we make that work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, listen, there are some times where we'll miss like a month, but we'll come back, and it's like we never miss that time.
Yeah, and it's never like we're never close to canceling a campaign, right? Like I was on hiatus for over a year, like almost a year and a half, where like I didn't come to anything. And I would show up for a one-off every now and then. I would run something every now and then, but like I was gone for the better part of 2 years almost, and yet I jump back in, and it's like I was never gone. So
yeah.
And I expect that it'll happen to someone else too. Like maybe Sean will start his whole EMT thing and get really busy and not be able to make it for a while, and he'll be able to jump back in like it's nothing. Maybe Zach will move all the way across the country and something will come up and he'll have to take a back seat for a while. I expect that those things are going to happen to everybody. I'm glad that, I know everybody was skeptical when I came back, right? Like, we don't know if he's really going to be able to make time or anything for it.
There was definitely like there was a period of like maybe like 2 or 3 weeks where I think you were like texting more consistently, because there were times where we would get like a singular text like once a month.
Yeah.
But then like the text started turning into like 3 a week, and then like nearly daily. We're like, okay, is he like in? Because at this point we were in our Theros campaign that Sean had ran.
Yeah.
During this kind of period where you were gone. And we all were like, wait, so is Seth gonna join Theros? Like, we all were convinced that you were going to join Theros.
I was pretty close too. And then it turned out I still was very stressed out and ready to jump off a building. I was like,
that's okay.
I was still so stressed that I was like, I don't think I can join in on a D&D campaign right now. I'm too much. Because it did become, when I was in training, like I needed to not be on base on the weekends. Like, I needed to leave. I needed to not be here because I needed to be somewhere else. And so I would go. That's when I got into Magic. Right. I went and I played Magic at a store off base. Or I would go. We would drive all the way to Tucson when I was in Arizona and go play Magic at the malls there. Zach came out for a business thing one time, and we went out to a store there, and I taught Zach how to play Magic. So
nice.
So that became a big hobby while I was there. Some days I would just be like, I would be in my room when you guys were playing, but I'd be like, I can't speak to anybody. I can't do it. And so I would sit there on my Steam Deck or something and I would just play. And then at the same time, I'm a married man now. I did find that there were times when I was not stressed and I was free, that I was like, okay, when we weren't married yet and stuff, or even when we were, where I'd be like, I need to call and talk to my wife today, so that way we can make sure our relationship is still solid. And that was something I told Zach when I was texting him. I was like, I was like, dude, I have time today to play, but I'd rather spend it with her because we were long distance for over a year.
Yeah.
A year and 1 day. We were long distance.
Wow.
So yeah, those things ended up taking precedent over D&D, but then once I got here and we lived together and everything, it turned out like, hey, I can spare 4 or 5 hours once a week.
Yeah.
Like, and it ended up being a lot better because I was genuinely like, am I not going to be able to play D&D ever again? And luckily it turned into me being able to play with this campaign, and now I'm comfortable to the point where I'm like, I can start the podcast up. I can probably DM again, hopefully, whenever we get there. But okay, one big thing for me with you is I wanted to ask where your DMing journey started, because it didn't start with us.
So no, it did not. So it originally started around like 2.5 years ago, when my coworkers just all put me in a group chat and they were like, "Hey, we heard you play D&D. We all decided preemptively we want to play D&D. Can you teach us?" And at this time, I had this campaign that I had been writing for a while, since the end of Storm King's Thunder, and it was essentially a follow up to where I ended Daleth's story. And I had just been writing that. I had just been, adding to it every now and then, just slowly cultivating it over time. And when they asked me, my first thought was, it's like, I was like, okay. It's like, do I think about it? I'm like, okay, so I have never DM'd. The story isn't technically done, but what I have could, cover a big portion. And these are all like 100% new players who I know for a fact do not treat it with the same level as my other group. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm like, yes. So we go in, I teach them all. This is a campaign of 7 people, which is
A lot.
too many. That's too many. That's not a lot. Is not an understatement. It's too many.
I've done it before. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very hard. But the big thing that I did with them is I really had to dumb down a lot of the rules, because that was what I called my learning campaign, because I had always wanted to DM something with you guys. I just was like, I know the caliber of you, Zach, and Sean and Drew, and I was like, yeah, I at least want to know what I'm doing, so that I'm not like stumbling every like 5 seconds, going like, maybe do this or maybe do that. So
When you say caliber, what were you thinking at the time? Like, as far as you felt like you had to like live up to something? Is that what you mean?
no, so it was, I had seen, I had been in part of 2 campaigns, dozens of one-offs, and to my metric, they were all amazing. And I was like, well, I really want to make sure that my thing is amazing. So I was like, I kind of wanted to like test drive it first to kind of see how I did, and then if it went well, I was gonna bring it forward to you guys. Essentially, it was mainly, do I know the rules of DMing? It was mainly that, so I wouldn't have to always go like, hey guys, what does this mean? Hey guys, what does this mean? Right. So I did that campaign with them. It took about 2 years to finish. It was a majority, a heavy RP'd based campaign. And it really, the one thing that I really wanted to, that they were kind of not a they were not really vibing with, was like RPing and like pushing like a story, or doing things like let's say a character has a question for another character, they would ask me, and I would go, ask them in character. I'm like, if you have the question, I don't have the answer. What if they have the answer? Maybe their character could role play it. And then they're like, oh yeah, yeah. And then it's like very like, it's very, like, hey, Where are you from? I'm from the mountains. Okay, bye. And then it's like,
That's wild.
and then that's all. And it's like there's like so many layers. Like there was there was this big story moment that they just completely skipped over because they did not want to walk down a hallway.
Okay.
They essentially, I was like, all right, guys, you see this hallway before you, it just leads down, and they have an ascending stairwell. And basically, at the top of the stairwell was going to be this, like, essentially like a control room that had a bunch of, like, levers that would open a bunch of doors. And they essentially were like, no, we kind of want to just leave this spot, and we just never want to come back here.
Yeah, I'm not really feeling this place anymore.
Yeah, and they did a lot of that. It was a lot of, they liked, essentially, if I had, like, presented an idea, they were like, oh, we are going left field with it all the way. And one thing I will say that, to their credit, it really helped force me to act on my feet, because genuinely, I would not know what they would think of. But as a DM, I also wanted to be like, I also don't like saying no. Like, if you can, my thing is if you can justify it to me,
Right.
I can. If you can justify it, cool.
I mean, that's exactly how I treat it too. Like, if it makes logical sense, like, I'll give an example. One time, our friend Lanky Eric, he once told me he was going to turn into a cat, and that he was going to jump up to a window. And I said, the window's 15 feet up. And he goes, cats can jump really high. And I said, cats can't jump 15 feet. He goes, cats can jump from, like, the ground on top of a fridge. And I said, fridge isn't 15 feet high. And so I looked, he looks up and shows me a video of a cat jumping on top of a fridge. And I go, like, Eric, the fridge, I was like, average height of fridge, 6 feet. And I was like, you can't jump up to a 15-foot window. If you make a really good check, like athletics check, I'll say that you can run up and find enough, like, claw holds to make it up there.
Right.
But you're not verting 15 feet. And he rolled a nat 1. And I went, you don't make it to the window.
Yeah, see, now that I have another example. So when we would do combat, they were of the belief of, if I slashed with a sword, a body part should come off. Yeah, so, like, for example, anytime someone was wielding a sword, without hesitation, I'm going to attack his neck to cut off his head. And I would always say, you can try to do that. You need to, and I'll tell him just point blank, you need a nat 20. I was like, if you get a nat 20, that can happen. Other than that, you won't be able to cut the head off. And it would be head, arm, leg, ear, literally anything. There was like, but it's sword combat. I'm like, yeah, right, but it's like,
But you don't get it every time you hit with the sword, you don't direct hit them. Like, you move, like, this person moves a little bit and it slashes them and they get a little nick in their armor that they're wearing. Like, even, like, sometimes you can even count a hit, like, a slashing damage, hits their leather and breaks into it and hits, like, the bludgeoning, like, from the leather hitting their arm does damage, but maybe they don't even go all the way through the leather. You know?
Exactly. So it was a lot of, like, that stuff too, but again, it would always be, okay, you have to make the roll. And if they would like ask something like really like they were like a weird request, I'd be like, you can. I have a number in my head. Let's see if you can get that number. And then they would roll, and I would go, unfortunately, that was not the number. And then they're like, oh, dang it. And then they think of something else, and then it just gets totally, the tone changes, everything changes off of that one reaction. So I was very happy, and I was very determined that, like, once I finished that campaign, I was like, okay, clearly I don't want to do this Daleth follow-up campaign, just because I was like, another time.
Yeah.
Another time. So then I was like, okay, I think I can trust myself enough to where I can maybe put something together, and I think it could be good with our group. And so then that's when I started thinking about this current campaign.
And where did you get the basis? Because so we canonically say, it all takes place in the same Forgotten Realms, but our Forgotten Realms, because so much has happened in it. And so you made up a city, you made up this whole little area, which very wonderful. I like living in it. Where did you get all the ideas from? And give us a little rundown of what it's all about.
Yeah, of course. So the working title for the campaign is called The Lost Citadel. I saw a source book at a game store, and I kind of liked the name, The Lost Citadel. So the campaign has no mentioning of a citadel. In fact, I don't think the word citadel does not come up in the campaign. But basically, so the first thing I wanted to decide was, do I want to do a large scale campaign, or do I want to short scale it and kind of make everything more like a Curse of Strahd feel versus a Storm King's Thunder feel, where we were going to city,
right.
city, realms upon realms. And so kind of the first kind of ideas that I got. So the idea, sort of the base of the story, you all are residents of this mega city called Luna. And in this city, it is occupied by predominantly followers of the goddess Seluna, who is, her whole deal is the moon. So she's known as the Moon Maiden. And you slowly go on these small little quests, and eventually the party has found a weird magical purple plant. And they have been figuring out what the cause of this plant is, and sort of what the plant does. And I don't know, it's really
needless to
hard
say, from what I'm getting so far, being a player in the campaign, people are turning into zombies from these plants. Kind of sucks. Happened to me. Lost an arm because of it, because I got a little too I can overpower this type deal. And all of our characters are worshippers of Seluna, and we're trying to get to the bottom of what the heck is this? Where does it come from? Who is this goddess that's trying to corrupt us? And how do we fix it?
Yes.
And not only that, but there's an upper city, and then there's an underground city called Azure Alley that's also just as big as the upper part of the city. And we've spent a majority of the campaign in that undercity area so far, and it's been awesome down there. That's been the coolest part, is since we got underground, because I thought we were going to walk in and it was going to be the Undermountain, where we had to fight every 5 seconds. No, we walk in and it's we're walking around, we're talking to highfalutin individuals, we're talking to characters from our old campaigns so I know one of your big things for the campaign was your old characters all have something to do with this place.
Yeah.
And so they keep circling back around, where I'm like, do we know this person? We do know this person. Oh my God, how did he get here? Why did he get here? And then it'll slowly get revealed to us, and we're like, that's why they're here. That's what's going on. So I've really enjoyed that, having those little Easter eggs dropped at us. But then you also have your 3 factions that are underneath in Azure Alley, who also, we have been a big player in deciding who is in power down here, which was also a lot of fun. And now we're about to wrap up this first arc we're going into, where we're going back up to the top to stop this blight from taking over the city.
Yes. So to kind of just keep continuing on with sort of how the city was set up, one thing that I wanted to do was tell a story. And it was just this story of this idea that not everything is as it seems. So right in the beginning of the campaign, you're introduced to Luna. It's a beautiful utopia for Seluna followers. Predominantly everyone there follows Seluna, and it's very nice. Everything that you would ever need is in this city, so you don't really need to leave. So it's essentially a utopia. And as they've gone through each session, they're kind of slowly starting to learn that Luna, at its start, is kind of got some weird undertones to it. In fact, Seth, you unfortunately missed the Neritha one-off.
Yes.
That kind of detailed some backstory lore for the construction of Luna.
Yeah. which we'll delve into that like for our next session, right? I'll probably learn about what actually happened there. Yeah, and I thought of the really cool thing since we're all Selûne followers was like my character's a cleric of Selûne. We all talk about her all the time. We're all like very diehard worshippers. Yet at the same time, our characters, as opposed to a lot of the ones up top, are willing to help the people who don't worship Selûne, while the ones up top are very much like, there's word of this Undercity kind of thing where people are exiled to, but nobody talks about it, nobody acknowledges it. Like, those people just don't belong up here. Which has been a big crazy thing for us, where we're down here, we're meeting people, we're like, these people are just like us. Like, these people are, like, a lot of them are good people. And so that's been a big awakening where we're all like, oh, it's for the Moon Maiden, it's for this, but we don't go further into that. We're just like, yep, that's why it's happening. So I'm excited to figure out what happens with that along the way, if anybody falls out of the religion or if anybody like changes how they feel about these kinds of things.
Oh, so we might tomorrow in our session.
Okay.
Me and Drew have been texting because if you remember, Omarion, the guy who was essentially after Shaw, Drew's character, this entire first arc of the campaign, came up to Shaw and was like, "Listen, I don't know what I just saw, but Selûne is not going to be. You need more than just Selûne.
Right.
Use my power. I have the power of Baal, the god of murder. You know, kill me, be a follower of Baal, and you can really take out this ancient evil." And so Drew was very worried about this, but I've assured him, I'm like, listen, it's all good. We're not murder hoboing anybody. Everything will be revealed. But actually, there's one thing that I'm actually a little salty about. I was certain that someone wasn't going to follow Selûne for this exact moment. It just so happened that Drew got selected to be the non-Selûne follower.
Well, and we all like it ended up being a meme of like we're all Selûne followers. Like no one's changing. No one can change their mind. We're all Selûne followers. We've all decided. So that was it ended up going that way, and I'm satisfied with how everything's gone so far. Excited for where like the next arcs lead to. How do you feel being the DM so far for our group? You know, like you said, everybody except you and Chase have DM for the group so far.
Right.
So yeah, now it's only Chase who hasn't DM for the group. So you coming in as the fifth person, the fifth DM for our 6-player group. How do you feel?
So I will say I think I have a groove now. I was like maybe like the first 3, I was like still a little shaky. Now that I know my plan, I do my writing, I do all my planning, like I have everything sort of set, ready to go, so that I can just go, I can look and go, all right, we're doing this today, this is happening, and then I can do it. The one thing that I will never be prepared for is when it was my first like oh no moment. It was when you Zone of Truth Bavine way early into the campaign.
Yeah.
So to give some context, this is like maybe session 3.
Yeah, I this was my second session playing Gene.
Yes. And so basically in Sinjaluna there is the king, there is the archsage, and then there's the archmage, and then there's the guy who is sort of over the marketing district, or sort of in charge of all commerce. That guy's name is Bavine. And so the intended route for this campaign was, you guys were not supposed to discover Azure Alley for like another maybe 5 sessions.
Yeah.
In fact, Bavine was not even the way to get to Azure Alley. In fact, you guys were supposed, the way that I had set, you guys were going to help out a lot of the Sinjaluna folks and sort of build a bond with them. And then slowly you guys learn about Azure Alley helping out small businesses in Sinjaluna. And then eventually one shopkeep leads you to his basement, and then he gets you to Azure Alley. But in session 3, Gene was like, you know what?
So I'll give my justification. We, after a while, had found that this guy is suspicious in some way. Once we found out these guys, we walked into a store where people were robbing weapons, or like smuggling weapons, and we saw the symbol we were looking for on one of them, like of this like cult or sect of people from the underground. And so we were like, these are the guys, let's go. We go in, we talk to them, combat starts, we end up beating a lot of them, and we find Bavine there. He's one of these guys, and we're like, why are you here, man? What's weird? What are you doing with these guys? One of our guys, who has really high strength, catches him, and then I was like, or I think I instructed, I was like, grab hold of him. They grab him, and then I zone of truth, and I'm like, time to interrogate, baby. And I ask all the questions in the book. Like, I'm basically like, all right, let's start from the top. Who are you? What happened? Why are you here? Who's in charge of this? What is this? Describe this to me. What else do they know? Like, all the way down the list. And luckily, Patrick played along with the whole thing. He gave us all the information. And right after that, we found out how to get into Azure Alley and got there way before we were supposed to.
Yeah, it was in that moment where I was like, well, this is my one example of things going awry. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, this doesn't really affect anything. I guess this just ups the timeline a little bit. Mm-hmm. I was like, all right, cool. I guess we're doing it. And so then I was like, and so then it made me feel a little bit better, where I was like, I had all this planned content that I will never use now. I'm like, I'm glad I had that, but I'm also glad that I had the backup just in case. But I have to say, I do like how the events have transpired, the way they've transpired. It feels a lot more natural than the direction I wanted to take it.
Right.
So,
yeah,
I'm cool with it.
I thought it was fun the way it ended up going, and I think big thing, since this was one of my first characters jumping back in, right? I made Gene, like, he's this prodigy, right? He feels clerical magic. He doesn't pray for it. He doesn't, like, think about it too hard. He's just like, no, I believe in Selûne. I've never spoken to her. I just have this ability through my faith to do these things, and I don't think about it too hard. So, like, he was always told to do all these studies and practices of clerical magic, but he never thought he had to, because it always just happened. And so he's not very serious about that kind of stuff. And so in these moments, you know, his instincts come out. He starts doing it. And he's like, all right, tell me the truth. Boom, it happens. And this is part of, like, we described this in some episodes earlier on in the podcast. The 2-person campaign Drew and I did with Zach, like, right at the beginning of COVID. We were all in Eberron, and we were playing 2 Warforged investigators. And I was the main, like, investigator, Agent 99, a Warforged. And Zach had to deal with that every session, where it's only 2 of us, so the spotlight is on us all the time. And we had, like, a Han Solo Chewbacca relationship, so he would, like, stumble across things. It would be like, oh my god, I found something. And then Agent 99's like, okay, no problem, I figured it out. You know, stuff like that. And in those sessions, there were so many times whenever we would question someone for so long, and you could tell Zach was like, I've given you everything I know. And this was another one of those times where I was like, Zone of Truth is down. You have to tell me everything.
Yeah, and honestly, I was like, I mean, that's what the spell does. I have to abide what the spell does. And again, I think it's really cool, because I think it got you a better understanding of how Azure Alley worked based and how it kind of worked with Sinja Luna.
Yeah.
It kind of made your introduction to the weapons guilds, the Cackling Glaive's leader Gerard, made it a little bit more smoother, I would say. And then just, like, with all the other backstory stuff that happened in the underground, it kind of just, it made more sense with the flow with how I wanted to do things.
I think it worked out greatly. And, like, as far as for what I would say for newer DMs or someone who's been playing for a long time and wants to try it out for their group, like, these types of things where something comes up and instead of being like, I don't have anything planned for that, no, you can't do that, or, like, trying to lie your way through it, I think that going with the flow like Patrick did and just saying something, even if in your head you can justify he really doesn't know that much, he just does this, and changing your story a little bit to make it fit, or like just go with the flow, roll with the punches, because when a player does something like that, like when I did that, I felt like I did it. This was the whole purpose. This is why I took this spell, right? Like this spell only has one purpose, and it's exactly what we're doing right here. So yeah, moments like that, roll with those punches. For you, Patrick, now that you've been doing this, we're on session 13 or 14?
I believe
Something
so.
like that?
Yeah.
So how are you feeling so far? And what do you think you do as a DM that's like different from what the rest of us have done? Because, you've seen a bunch of other DMs DM for you.
Yeah, of course. So I think my biggest thing, and I slowly realized it, whenever I come up with an idea, or whenever I think of something, it immediately gets written down and I have this massive document just of notes.
Yeah.
And what I kind of like with doing with that, like I'll use the backstories as an example, because those were probably like the first iteration of it. So when I got everyone's backstories, my first thing that I really wanted to like do was I wanted to incorporate the backstories within the campaign, because I don't know, I feel like that's just, again, it's just extra content that you can just add and make your campaign so much. You can just add more like just substance and structure, just adding more into that backstory. And so it would always be, I would read like a sentence. I'll use Zach's character Vonnen as an example. So I think Zach's backstory read like he's like a bear totem barb and like a moon druid. And he like mentioned something about like he like utilize like the bear as like his like a way of worshiping Saluna. And just without hesitation, I just typed down Zach will become a bear by the end of this campaign. Or like Drew, for example. With Drew's backstory, I was like, okay, so Drew seems kind of like this like good guy, and it's like, okay, what would happen if someone was trying to just go after one person the entire time? And so then I was like, okay, Drew is going to get messed with by someone. That's his backstory. And then I parentheses go into depth at a later time.
Yeah.
And kind of what I do is, I don't know, I'll think of just like a just a vague statement, and then I'll just take some time and I'll just continually build off of that. I'll take just like small influences. Like the big influence that I always want to give credit to Sean for is the use of gods. So Sean did a Theros campaign when Seth was gone for that year and a half, 2 years, and I really fell in love with the idea that the character itself, if they followed a god in Theros, their like personality, their whole like demeanor, all their motivations are to please and honor this god. And so my thought was, okay, well that's already a kind of a cool idea. What would happen if like hundreds of thousands of people all were just like really psyched about this one singular god? And then I was like, okay, well then what about another god? And so then I started thinking about like other like okay, who does like Saluna like align with? Who does she not align with? And then it really starts like thinking. Then I can really start to like delve into what I want to do.
Hey, props to you for not immediately going to, oh, Saluna, we'll just make Char the villain.
Yeah, no, yeah. So, and that's another thing when it came to like writing this campaign. I don't know how you do it, but for me, before I did anything, I sort of wrote out my like what I called my big session moments. So I had like my session 1, I had like
It's like a
the
flow
session.
map of where you want the campaign to go.
Yeah, I basically have my flow map, and then with that flow map, I would then go, okay, so we have this. How do we get from point A to point B, and how do we trickle it in with this already established kind of idea? And then with all of that, I then just would slowly just build it over time. I started writing this in like January, and it's been just like a slow progression. Another thing that I really like doing is just the idea of like giving the players something that like will be meaningful within the campaign, or like something that like will directly affect them in like a meaningful way. So for example, with Zach's character Vaughn and turning into a bear, my whole thought process was, well, okay, well, obviously this guy worships Saluna in a different way. But I was like, okay, so obviously I'm going to give him all these great powers, but then I get to thinking, well, what could be some like drawbacks to being a massive bear? So then it kind of had me, I don't know, just really just kind of selecting like what I wanted to do. But yeah, trying to think of any other.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. So like when it goes to planning for you, correct me if I'm wrong, you kind of had your story beats in mind, and then it came down to planning like the individual session on how you would get from A to B.
Yeah.
Like for me, big thing was when I came to planning the campaign, I knew the beginning and how I wanted it to end, and then every session would just flow together till we arrived here. Because I really like for you guys to have as much agency as possible. So I would try not to plan more than 2 or 3 sessions ahead based on the story we're at. So, for instance, in Descent into Avernus, we ran with the book up until the end of that campaign, and then I wrote the next 10 levels worth of content. And when it came to planning those, I was like, okay, the players have finished Descent into Avernus. They went with the redemption route for Zariel. She has been fully redeemed. And now that has angered Asmodeus. So now Asmodeus is mad at the players. He's going to start sending people and maybe even paying visits himself to them on the material plane. All the players are like, adventure's over. We split up, we go do our own things. Everybody split up to go do their own things, right? And then everybody got paid a visit at some point by some aspect of Asmodeus. To which all the players contact each other. Hey, is this happening to you? It is. Let's solve this problem. Let's take care of it ourselves. Take it into our hands. We're gonna descend. We're gonna descend into Nessus, into the 9th layer. So you guys dove through all the layers, and all I knew was at the end of this, their plan is to kill Asmodeus. That's the plan.
Yeah.
That's the end goal. But I did not have each layer written out. I only had what was written in the Dungeon Master's Guide and what's on the wiki for each layer. Some of the layers only had this much description of text to show me what to write, right? And so I would just make stuff up. I'd be like, okay, these first few layers, which I feel like are very fleshed out in Forgotten Realms lore, first few layers, a little bit longer, couple sessions each in each one. But then as this is happening, hell is what you make of it, depending on who's in charge. I was thinking, Asmodeus, at this point, is like, bring them down here. I'll take care of them myself. So it got progressively shorter time in each layer until you were spending in those last 2. You spent 1 or 2 sessions in each one, and then you were there. And it was time, and it was game time.
Yeah.
But I wasn't planning that as we went. I was planning session to session, layer to layer of this is what they have to do to get out of this one. And it never ended up being I don't plan the whole story as it's probably going to go. I plan it based on whatever you guys are up to, whatever you guys are doing. So it's a little bit different, I think, but still same end result. I feel like you do a great job of the storytelling so far, because you have very firm ideas of what you would like to portray to us. You usually do a really good job of this big lore bit I want you guys to discover, and you don't let us linger for too long. I'm privy to letting you guys RP as long as you want. You know, you guys stay in this one place the whole session if you want and enjoy your time. But I feel like you've done a pretty solid job of like, okay, well, while you guys are walking to your next destination, or like, okay, you guys are already here. I assume you guys are leaving, so you guys are already here. You're gonna go jump into the next story beat. So it does seem like you're kind of on us a lot to keep going, which I don't think is a bad thing because we're all on such strict time schedules that you're able to fit the session in like a 3-hour time span.
Yeah, that was another thing, is because I will admit I am the person that will look at a wall in the game and I'll go, it's a wall. Can we go over the wall? We cannot go over the wall. Okay, can we go around the wall? You cannot go around the wall. Okay. It's like 2 minutes later. I have an idea. What's the idea? Let's go over the wall. Well, see, we can't go over the wall. Well, what if we casted a spell? And then it turns into this, like, 20-minute discussion on, do we waste a second level Misty Step to go over a 30-foot wall? And I just remember I was like, because again, I love the story. I'm like, this to me doesn't necessarily drive a story. There are obviously some parts that can do that, but I'm like, if something like a wall is inaccessible, let's move on. Let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. Yeah, and again, another thing is I want to intentionally have you guys continually question everything that I presented to you guys. So it's not as like a RP thing, but as like a personally, like your character, like how would they react in this situation? Or like when we discovered your first two clerics in in Azure Alley, who were like the first like flower zombie things. We really didn't stay too long with those guys. Were just like, we observed them, we kind of sussed some stuff out, and then we kind of left. But what I really wanted to kind of see, like, what you guys' thought process were like, how'd they get down here, or just a lot of just open and shut questions, just so that eventually everything goes and everyone goes, oh,
yeah,
oh, like. So in our previous session, we had a one-off. So the way that I kind of set up this campaign is, since it's a sort of smallish scaled campaign, I really wanted to give sort of like some like history and backstory using that same setting. And so in this session, you essentially are going through the first couple of weeks of the construction of this massive city. And I intentionally ended it on the third week, essentially, where I was like, okay, the third week's happened. This big thing happened. That's where we're going to end it. And the guys were like, did you mean to do that? They're like, what the heck? We kind of just, like, what was the point? And I'm like, listen, don't worry. I understand it does not make sense now, but I was like, trust me, you'll understand later. And that's all I know when it's going to happen, because I feel like I will know what each person's going to go, oh, like, oh, that makes sense. Like I know, I feel like I know now where like everyone's going to make that realization.
That's cool. I like that.
That's what I love as a storyteller, is keeping everybody in the dark until it's just that one, like, oh my gosh.
No, I like that. Well, you're doing a great job so far. I'm enjoying playing in the campaign. I'm also still enjoying DMing. I think that a lot of these elements that you've talked about, like, it makes a lot of sense how you got there, and I do think it's a lot different than what a lot of us do. Like, when it comes to Drew, right? He plans one session for the whole year. He spends months thinking about the one session he's going to run, and you can tell when we arrive at that session that this is an event. We make it an annual event to do these Christmas one-offs that he's been planning. And I still remember each one vividly, you know? For me, I am the lazy DM. I can DM every single week without fail, without getting tired, right? And that's because I don't put too much thought into it. I have the story planned out, but I really let you guys write that story for me, and I guide you to the right spots.
Right.
So that I don't stress about it too much. Like, I typically don't prepare the session until the day the session is supposed to happen, and I don't think about it beforehand because I don't want to stress myself out and not want to play D&D.
Right.
It's like, okay, I know I'm doing this on Saturday morning, I'll get everything ready. I think Sean plans a whole lot for a while leading up to it, and then you jump in and it's all very well fleshed out. It's all very well thought through for the entire time. And I haven't gotten to play for him, like, admittedly, I didn't get to play in Theros, so I can't give you more criticism on exactly his style. But I do know, like, from the sessions I have played for him, like, he is very thorough when it comes to telling the story. Like, he knows his characters.
Yes, that does ring true in the Theros campaign.
Yeah.
It got to the point where, like, you could really feel that, like, we were in Theros, and, like, what we were doing was, like, deeply impacting the world we were in.
Right. And then for you, I always constantly feel like you have a treat dangled in front of me.
Yeah.
You always have something, like, sitting there where I'm like, I need that I need it. And so that's been a really fun thing so far, where I'm like, okay, well, I want to play the next session because I need to know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, I will say, for just for the, I guess, the audience, Seth and Sean, their whole, so right now in Act 1, Drew, Chase, and Zach are getting their kind of spotlight moment. Sean and Seth are going to be very integral in Act 2.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm excited to learn that kind of stuff. I complain every session because everybody's getting, like, cool powers and stuff, and I go, DM, no one has given me the power to turn into a Super Saiyan yet. When is this going to happen?
Yeah, I know. and I keep telling them, I'm like, listen, Act 2, I promise you, you're gonna love it. You're gonna absolutely love it.
Yeah, and I get a little bit of, like, anxiety because I'm like, man, I'm enjoying playing the story so much, but then I think about the stories I want to tell, and I'm like, it's gonna be a decade before we even finish my third campaign. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna be 35 when our third campaign is over, because Sean still has more stories he wants to tell. I know you want to go through this whole thing, and then I have another, like, 3-year campaign to DM, and that's before Spelljammer's done. Like, Spelljammer's not even barely started.
Oh, I know. Listen, I'm glad we have content, because there was a point in time where we kind of really didn't have a lot going. We just had, like, an occasional, like, one-off.
That was when I first left, right?
Yeah, it was around there, and then we would do, like, I think Zach would do something, Sean would do something, Drew would do something, but then it would always just, I don't know. It's always nice to have something. I like that we've finally reached that point where we can finally say, well, we have essentially the next 10 years on lock if need be.
I feel like we're going to have a rotation. Like, you're going to finish your arc, then I'm going to do an arc, and then Sean's going to do his, and then we're going to go loop back around or something.
Which I think is cool. I think would be awesome.
Or, likewise, what I'm trying to do with Spelljammer right now, which I think a lot of people could bring into it. Like, I used to be the forever DM. If I wasn't there that week, no one was playing. Like, that used to be how it was, right?
And it was unfortunate.
And now, what I'm doing with Spelljammer is I've designed it as a space odyssey that is episodic. So, like, you guys are going on this space adventure, and if 2 people aren't there that week, they can stay on the ship while the other 3 dock and go on the adventure. And I'm glad we're doing that, because that means I can get more sessions of it in on weeks that we're not playing. I can be like, hey, if we can play this weekend, or if, like, nobody can play this weekend, I'll run Spelljammer. So that's nice. I would like not to be missing, like, more than 2 players, though, because I feel like the vibes get off. Then if it's only, like, 2 of you guys, if at least 3 of you guys are going on the journey, it makes a little more sense. But
my thing is, I always need 3. I need at least 3.
But yeah, so anything else as far as your campaign goes? Any thoughts on DM styles? Any last minute advice to give to anybody who might have been playing for years but not jumped into DMing yet?
Yeah, if you are a new player, truly, all you need is a singular idea. This whole campaign essentially came to my mind when I saw the character Marluxia from Kingdom Hearts 2, and my thought process was, okay, this guy has a deep voice, he carries a scythe, and his deal is flowers.
Yeah.
I was like, since when are flowers like that cool? It was this idea of something really beautiful could also be deadly. So don't be afraid if you're like if you're like afraid of like I'm not sure if this idea is good enough. It is. It is. It's always you got to get past that first hurdle of am I going to be able to do this? Because 9 times out of 10, if you go in with confidence, 9 times out of 10, your players will see that confidence and they'll feed off of you.
Yeah, and I think imposter syndrome is the one thing I would say is like a lot of times you've had the same DM for a few years and you think I can't do better than them. You don't have to do better than them. You'll probably have your own thing.
Yeah.
Like we just described, the 4 DMs that we had in our we've had all have extremely different playstyles. I didn't even go over Zach's playstyle where like I feel like Zach, his huge strong point is just his characters feel so real. Like
yes,
his voices and the way he portrays his characters, they feel like real people. Like I feel like mine don't always feel real. They feel like fun anime characters. Like that's how a lot of my DM style comes from, because I like anime and fantasy storytelling. And yeah, no, Zach's characters, they're real people.
Yeah.
And that's because he's got a lot of acting training.
Yeah. There are some characters that Zach does, and I'm like, God, I wish I could do that voice.
Exactly.
Oh, that's another thing. New DMs, do not be like deterred if you can do a bunch of crazy voices. It is okay.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. Honestly, a good way to practice, one that I like doing, is doing things that like you can control. So like let's say your character is more like feminine sounding and you're a male DM. You could, hold your nose. Hello there. My name is and you've already changed your voice without even really having to do anything.
Yeah.
Or even doing stuff like describing like a muffled sound. You could be like,
we haven't even said that Sean's character holds a cup up to his mouth like this when he talks.
Yeah. Like, exactly.
That's his whole voice. It's his normal voice, but he holds a cup up to his mouth and does a more higher pitched thing. And it's really funny.
Again, yeah. So when it comes to like that, like creating a character and like creating this like potential, 3-year project, don't feel like you have to like make the most overpowered character right off the rip, because it's always going to be that slow grind, and it's always more fun just enjoying the process as you go. Do not be afraid to try new things.
I think that's good advice. I think that's good.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I don't know if you know how we close out the show in the past, but I'm going to have to ask a favor from you.
All right.
Typically, I'll say a little blurb. I'll, give shout outs to our Patreon, to the YouTube channels, all the links and stuff like that. And then I'll say a specific character's name and I'll have them do an outro. So like in the past, for example, this is for all new listeners, get used to this. I'd be like, all right, and now let's have Asmodeus take us out. And then Zach will jump in as Asmodeus and say some dumb shit and we'll end the show.
Okay.
So,
right, done.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to have you improv for me, okay? So thank you guys so much for listening to Table Talk Friday, or watching it, because we have a little bit of video now we're putting up on YouTube and in the Patreon. You can find that Patreon over at patreon.com/TableTalkFriday, or you can just subscribe over on youtube.com/TableTalkFriday. All of your podcasting apps, Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, you can find us all of those places. But for now, I'm going to have to ask for Daleth to take us out.
Okay. Man, what a time. What a memory. I truly have enjoyed my experience here at the Table Talk podcast. Let me tell you, I do it again. Now, if you'll excuse me, I do need to go burn a house down. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Tabletalk Friday. For more information, advice, questions, comments, and concerns, you can email the boys at tabletalkfriday@gmail.com. And if you'd like to tell your own stories, why don't you hit them up there? Send an inquiry or something, a sending spell. Thank you very much for listening, and please follow and come back next week. Goodbye. Bye-bye.